Got all my fingers crossed and everything. Hello, welcome to Wrestling Made Me Cry. My name is Kiley. This is Collins, and this is our AEW All Out review show. I've just got to preface it. Having some Wi-Fi, some internet issues. So if I cut out, I cut out.
Yeah.
But you know what? We're trucking through because I need to talk about the show. How are you?
You know, I'm good. I came in my crispiest white tee for you. You know,
I got my All Out 2021 shirt on. I didn't have a white shirt, so
I wore my All Out 2021 shirt yesterday.
It's so cute.
I love
it. On the back, it has like the date and everything.
Yeah,
I love AEW.
I love it. I love it. It's the day after a pay-per-view, and I woke up this morning going, I have the whole day. I could do things.
Yeah.
How do you like Saturday pay-per-views?
I like the Saturday pay-per-views, one, because that means me and you get to come on the next day and talk about it. For
selfish reasons.
Yeah, and we don't have to wait the whole week to talk about it.
Yeah.
And also, it's just so much better because, for me, because I live on the East Coast, I don't, like, the pay-per-view ends at, like, midnight to 1 a.m., like, somewhere in there. And then if it's a Sunday night, and I have to be up early Monday to go to work. So I'm just, like, miserable all of Monday. Like, I basically have to wash my hands on Monday and just accept that it's not going to be a good day. But if it's a Saturday, I can sleep as long as I want on Sunday. So
what you're telling me is that it would be more beneficial to you if you lived on the West Coast, because it ended at 9 p.m. and I did the long skincare routine. I even put the magnesium cream on my feet, and I was honk shoeing by 10 p.m.
Not relate. For us, it starts like the main show starts at 8.
Oh.
8 p.m. And it goes to like midnight to 1 a.m. around there for like most AEW shows. And so, but I kind of like that because I can have my snacks and my dessert and my little.
Oh, that's cute.
My little drinks. It's a good time. But I do prefer the Saturday. Also, like Saturday just feels like so much more of an event.
Yeah.
Like Sunday's the end of the week. Like you're getting like a different version of me on Sunday night.
You're welcome for that ASMR.
Can opening ASMR.
I got a kiwi guava Celsius over here.
I have just a coffee that I made in my Keurig.
Oh my gosh.
But it's okay. I was going to have a Dr. Pepper, but I put it in the freezer to make it colder faster, and it froze. So now it's in my
explode?
Fridge. No, I got to it in time. It didn't explode. But it was like ice. So now it's in my fridge, like melting.
In a can or a bottle?
In a can.
Oh, yeah. I'm shocked. Because, you know, I was one of those kids that, like, someone told me don't do this. And I go, I got to figure out why. You can't put soda in the freezer. I got to figure out why. I got to do it.
It explodes.
It explodes. And then your mom goes, you get to clean the freezer. And you're, 13. But yeah, I'm still trying to process last night's All Out, because All In 2 weeks ago was so like, yes, everybody wins. We're champions. Look at this accomplishment. And this week All Out was very, oh no, people could have died. Better watch on Wednesday.
And like it was violent from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Like every single match felt life or death. And that's the craziest part of it all. It was like that was the show's vibe. It wasn't just like a Hangman thing.
The show's vibe.
That was the vibe. It was death. That was and the fact that it was such a 180 from All In, which was it was like All In. I think the big moment of All In was Bryan Danielson's title win with his kids. It was very cutesy, and then All Out's like Friday the 13th, like Jason Voorhees.
So on your playing field,
Yeah. It was crazy. The whole show was like a marathon. Like, we were sprinting.
No.
Like, there was nothing that led up because there was no Jericho match to, like, give you, you know, a piss
Oh my
break.
gosh. I had to go. I had to use the Shida Mercedes match to take the dogs out because that's usually when I would take the dogs out. And they're like looking at me and I'm like, there is nothing on this card that I could just like step away for 15 minutes to take the dogs on a longer walk to come back in.
Yeah.
Because I do that and then the match is over and I'm like, well, I guess that's what you replay the match for. But
it was such a well booked show, and even the matches that I've seen people call, you know, the downtime matches, like the Young Bucks versus Blackpool Combat Club. Even that match I thought was insane. Like, I thought this whole show was insane. But like, it's just this is AEW. Like, I watched it and I came away from the show and I was like, oh, that felt like AEW. That felt like the edgy, you know, weirdo, sicko behavior that I'm used to from AEW when it isn't trying to be like happy-go-lucky, cheesy stuff. So I'm so excited to talk about the show. If you guys want your question or your comment or whatever read on air, make sure to submit a super chat. And we're just going to talk about the show. And I'm so excited because me and you, I feel like we're going to have very similar thoughts. And I'm so excited because I haven't talked to anybody.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I went to bed last night. I didn't do any post shows or podcasts or anything. I went like straight to bed because I was so tired. And then I woke up this morning and I was like, oh my God. Now I get to talk about it with Collins. Like, not first thing in the morning for me, it's noon. But first thing in the morning. And it's going to be the best. I texted people a little bit. Like, I texted Kate a little bit. I texted, you know, some of my friends a little bit. But no, I haven't sat down and like relived the show with anybody. So I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to be a part of it. Yeah, last night I went to my best friend's house. So it was me, my husband, my best friend and their partner, another one of our friends who has no idea about anything about wrestling. Yeah. Like, I love watching wrestling with people who are like, I used to watch during the Attitude Era. And it's like, you have no idea what's going on. So there are comments about like different wrestlers and like, oh God, what are they doing? Oh God. And I'm like, what a wonderful pay-per-view.
My favorite thing is the last few AEW pay-per-views. I've had like in real life friends who don't watch wrestling, right, who have gone out just like out for the night on the weekend, and AEW is on in like the bar that they're in or the restaurant that they're in, and they send me pictures and they're like, look, I'm watching. And like part of me is like, oh no, please don't.
Please don't.
But then no, I've had quite a few friends who have found AEW in public, like at bars, but also some of them just like viral clips and things. So listen, AEW, if she's one thing, she's eye-catching. Eye-catching.
A syringe to the mouth. Yeah. Eye-catching.
That I loved that. Okay, well, we need to get into it because do
you want to talk about 0 Hour at all?
I thought the 0 Hour was good. Like, I thought the matches were pretty good.
It's Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
I looked at 0 Hour and I said, this is what I watch on Ring of Honor every week.
I thought it was funny that one, Max Caster didn't get a rap. And then 2, Billy Gunn got the biggest pop of that whole match. Like, love Billy Gunn.
Absolutely perfect. Loved it.
I thought every match on the 0 Hour, because there was also the Top Flight trios, the Dustin Rhodes, Sammy Guevara hologram trios, like just some fun matches, happy-go-lucky stuff. I thought everything was good. I don't think there was a match on the 0 Hour that I thought maybe shouldn't have been there. I thought they were all great.
Yeah, they did their purpose. They got people going, oh, there's people in here. I mean, the person that was at the, wrestling show that I, was watching it with goes, Dustin Rhodes is still wrestling? What?
And he's
Cole
good.
does. And I'm like, yeah, look at him. And he does like one power slam. And she goes, oh, he's got it. And I'm like, yeah, he does this week after week after week. This man, it's insane. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. I loved the Undisputed Kingdom winning their three-ways trios match. Because it was just fun. It was fun.
Yes.
But if you listen to my interview over at OLE, our local establishment yesterday, I was asked the question of where do I see Ring of Honor going? And I gave a very logical analysis that I don't think that Tony Khan would invite, so to speak, because he's busy. But I selfishly want Adam Cole to return to Ring of Honor and just annihilate the Undisputed Kingdom one by one.
I would be so into it because I'm so into Adam Cole returning. Period. Yeah,
absolutely.
I love him, and it's AEW is excellent without Adam Cole, but I do think that he adds some spice that AEW needs.
Right.
And I think if I'm trying to, I see Kate in the chat as well, so I'm trying to be delicate. Ring of Honor needs something.
Yes.
It needs like a spark in the dark. It needs something because not that the wrestlers there are bad. Everybody there is very talented. They're excellent wrestlers. But there's nothing on Ring of Honor that I feel like comes across as can't miss in the way that it used to be. So I think that would be something that, to me, I think for a lot of people is can't miss because Adam Cole is so synonymous in a lot of fans' minds with Ring of Honor.
Absolutely. And what a better place to return, from a career-stopping injury, so to speak. So,
yes.
But that was just my thing. But we don't have to go on and on about and dissect the 0 hour matches. They are fun. They are still available. If you're watching this, you haven't seen them. They are available over on YouTube, over at the AEW page. But don't go yet.
No, watch us.
Watch us and then go. Right?
Yeah, then go. We're more important right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was good. It was fun. I do have to say during 0 hour was like the time when people were like coming in and out and whatever, because there were other people, there were lots of dogs. But I made pizza rolls and I was consuming so many pizza rolls by this moment that by the time the main card sat down, I was like, I need a nap.
But you know what? AEW said no naps for you.
No naps.
This show is going to be nonstop. And it was. There was no point during the show where I felt like a moment of downtime.
Absolutely.
Because we start with like MJF and Daniel Garcia with an excellent match with an excellent angle afterwards. And then we're in the Young Bucks, which I'm the Luke Gurley.
Yeah.
And then it was like boom, boom, boom.
Okay, so what did you think about the Daniel Garcia MJF match and the subsequent ending?
I thought the match itself was really, really good because it's MJF and Daniel Garcia. Like, they're going to have to try to have a bad match. I wanted Daniel Garcia to win because I thought that he needs a big win. He's constantly like on the cusp of a big win, but he never gets over that hill. The angle afterwards where he beats down MJF, he celebrates the crowd. Like, I think that did a lot for him. I probably still would have liked to see him win, but I see people and I understand that, he still got a lot out of it. He probably gets more this way than before because MJF was destroyed by wrestling standards. By the end of the show, it looked pretty tame. But I think Daniel Garcia now is in a position where if he is staying with AEW, they can, push him to the moon. But if he isn't, then there's really no negative impacts, no negative ripples that happen. So I get it. I understand. But no, I thought this match was really good. It was a great way to open the show too, because MJF is just really good at being in that spot of getting the crowd into it, getting them settled, ready to, be a good pay-per-view crowd. So MJF is always kind of in this first match spot, and he does a great job at it. So it was good.
I mean, it's interesting because, I would have never thought that MJF would have been a first match kind of girly. You know what I mean? Like, I would have thought that he would be like, no, I want to be later on in the card. I want to be more dramatic. I want more of the spotlight on me, because that first match really, the whole entire point of it is to get people engaged in your show, continue watching. There's, you want to start off on a high note, right? There is a spot. Sorry, I'm reading my notes because of course I have notes. There was a spot when there was a Brett's rope tombstone pile driver that commentary sold like he was about to be laid to rest. Like there was just no more. Absolutely. And I was just like, okay, I know what's to come. So like the fact that this is the first match and you're already like, he's got a whole career in front of him, like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But absolutely, both of them sold the absolute shit out of each other's big moves. I think it ended at like 23 minutes or so, which in pay-per-view standards is a pretty long time for an opening match, but B, an MJF match, because MJF does not get paid by the hour. He gets paid by wins. And of course, MJF had to get his lick back from All In. And it goes right into Grand Salami in New York City. Come on. Like, we're going to see Daniel Garcia be the winner of that rematch, right?
I would think so. If he resigns, because as far as I'm aware, as far as I know, I don't think that he's necessarily resigned yet. I don't know if anybody's reported that. I have not checked the news this morning. Sue me. But commentary did a really good job of putting Daniel Garcia over as this like feral, uncontrollable little demon. And I like everything he did, they were like, how could he do that? This is and I think personally that in the future he's going to be a lot more dangerous as as like a wrestling character than he has been in the past, because the dancing thing is fun. He had a good time with that when it's a good dance. It's a good dance.
It is a good dance.
I respect it. It's a vibe. But I think back to like when Daniel Garcia before the Jericho Vortex, when he was just like starting to get going in AEW, he to me was a lot better then, because he felt so impactful in everything, and he felt scary. Like you wouldn't want to wrestle Daniel Garcia because he's going to hurt you. That's what he felt like. And then he, got caught up in the Jericho Vortex and blah, blah. What I really liked was commentary playing off the fact that both MJF and Daniel Garcia were under the learning tree of Chris Jericho, and they had both been mentored by him, and like there were shades of that in the match. But ultimately Daniel Garcia, at the end, he was Daniel Garcia. He was not Chris Jericho's Daniel Garcia or anything else. He was himself. So I think they've laid the groundwork for him to be pushed to the next level should he stay. Kate's in the chat and she says not resigned, but expected to. So
good. Thank you for confirming that. Yeah.
I think everybody comes out of this better. MJF is bulletproof at this point. Like, he could take a loss and people are still like his music hits. People are still going to love him. You could put him in a world title match. People are still going to think it's believable. He's fine. But this match overall, I thought was a great way to start the show. It wasn't, and I will get to this, it wasn't the best match on the card, but it was still, to me, excellent.
Excellent.
Which is crazy.
Absolutely.
This show was so good. I should go through and do, because I haven't done star ratings for a show in a hot minute.
I need a Kiley star rating.
I need to do it, because I feel like I used to do it so often way back when, around All Out 2021, and I stopped doing it, but I need to do it.
Well, this is your call back home, so
This was my
Let's
call
do
back
it.
home.
You're welcome.
So then we had the World Tag Title match. We had the Young Bucks versus Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta, who are just such a dream. And then we'll get to it.
We'll get to
the heartbreak.
Yeah.
But they were the older brother, little brother thing I love in wrestling. And so I loved Claudio and Yuta. And the Young Bucks, their gear was ugly. I just have to throw that out there. It was ugly.
Somebody posted a picture of, because like I come from an era, by the way, where when I used to go to the clubs, it was business casual, so to speak. You got the peplum tops, you got the people with the giant hair, you know, whatever. People are going to the clubs now with like similar to business casual. I mean, everyone's always going to have like something, you know, revealing and provocative and whatever. But they were at the club like with like a pinstripe vest and like the, you know, the baggier pants or whatever. And it just makes me laugh because I saw this outfit and I said, that is so Young Bucks. Like that's just Nicholas Jackson's outfit.
Yeah.
But I liked their outfits, but it wasn't as good as Wembley. Like Wembley with them coming out, you know, in the Sgt. Pepper, you know, outfits or whatever. Absolutely stunning. Killed it. Loved it. My favorite of their gears will always be the Elvis ones that they did at Double or Nothing. Absolutely lives rent free right next to, you know, Trauma and, you know,
I like a lot of their classic New Japan gear from Wrestle Kingdom and stuff. They always shout out for Wrestle Kingdom. And they normally have, and I think for me, the issue was I missed their really flashy gear with the tassels and all the colors and all that stuff. The pantsuits. Well, Nick, we did see Nick later in the show, and he had like a pink suit on. I thought that was really good.
That was better.
It's like, whatever. Like, get in there, get in the ring. Like, I guess you're not gonna doll yourself up for me, so might as well just go wrestle.
Okay. I would have liked something a little bit more pizzazz, but they are facing Claudio and Wheeler, which I think Claudio is objectively one of the best wrestlers on their roster, if not one of the best wrestlers to ever be in a tag team, because holy bananas, this man makes me weep in a good way, you know, like watching him wrestle that uppercut, which
he's having a great year, Claudio.
Absolutely stunning man wearing a white shirt just for him and Moxley. But definitely they had their work cut out for them. The match, I think, was pretty well paced. They did get a little bit lost in the middle. It was a little bit mushy. But the moment that Claudio does his running around the ring, you know, doing little uppercuts, doing all the things, and then doing his spin, it's like the hits are coming and coming and coming, and they don't stop coming. And I just love Claudio so much. But it's not to say I don't like Wheeler Yuta. I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
But
Wheeler Yuta now is my son. Like, I am ready to go to war for him after this guy. Like, and I'll explain later when we get to it, but I was very upset. But I thought I figured the Young Bucks were going to win because, I mean, it's Claudio and Yuta who are 2/3 of the trios champions and like weird things, but the match itself was good. I know why it was second on the card because there was really no reason for the match to be happening. It was like, okay. Sure. There's no story. There was story, but no. I'm just glad the rest of the show.
We weren't doing Young Bucks versus FTR or Young Bucks versus the Acclaimed. And not to say that like they aren't worthy tag teams, right? We do have a quite established tag team division that is a little bit murky with like both being on Ring of Honor and AEW. There aren't a lot of tag teams that are just AEW specific. Yeah. And they've concentrated so much of this year on the Young Bucks, FTR, and the Acclaimed. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of that matchup.
Yes.
So I was happy that we actually got BCC in there.
We got a little bit of spice. And the match was good. I don't want it to come across like I'm saying that it was bad. But I think that they're really trying to figure out the direction for the tag team division, because the reaction to the tag announcements, basically all the tag announcements up to All In and at All In, people are really disappointed because it feels like just rehashing a lot of the same things. But we saw tag teams on the pre-show, including some angles, including Ring of Honor talent. We saw just the Acclaimed getting absolutely they got reaction, but absolutely like no enthusiasm for Max Caster. So don't know where you go with them. Kate and others are in the chat talking about Mason and Mansoor.
Oh my god.
0 Hour, so good. They, I think, are getting really popular. The Outrunners. Like we have like a good foundation going. And I think this matchup, which the Elite versus BCC, everybody knows we're no stranger to it, but it did feel a little bit like a period at the end of the sentence, and that we're going to figure out other things moving forward, especially with the angle that we'll get to when we talk about the world title match. It was fine. Like I don't think the Young Bucks can have a bad match, because even if they go out and it's minimal, it's still good because it's the Young Bucks. And I didn't expect them to put on like a stellar 6-star classic second on the card. It was fine. It was good. It doesn't feel like to me that it weighed down the show at all.
Yeah.
It did what it had to do. And I think most importantly, it put Claudio and Yuta out there so that when they come back later in the show, chase off the Young Bucks, and then eventually, the deception that occurs, the mutiny.
Whoa.
It makes sense.
I do want to give mad props, though, to Wheeler Yuta. I did put in my notes that I had shades of a young Bryan Danielson with his little cattle mutilation. I think we are really seeing Wheeler Yuta take what he's learning and how far he's come.
Which makes sense for what the angle later in the show.
I know, and I really appreciate that commentary was lighting that up, being like, he's learning so much from his mentor, blah, blah, blah. We're going to see more of that later. And I'm like, okay, I'm excited. Little did I know.
It reminds me of when Yuta joined the BCC and he was still wrestling like Chuck Taylor.
Yeah. Oh,
he's just a baby. He's just a baby. But yeah, this match, I thought it was good. I'm never gonna turn my nose up at a Young Bucks match. I'm always there for her. I love the Young Bucks.
I get it. Well, do we get an official star rating, or do we have to wait
for this Young Bucks match?
Yeah.
Let me rewatch the show.
Okay.
And then I'll give my star ratings. I'll make a graphic or something. I'll put them on Twitter.
Ooh, okay.
We'll do it.
Well,
because I need to simmer. I need to watch it with objective eyes when I'm not so caught up and excited. Sure. I need to breathe.
All right. Well, we hop right into the AEW International Championship. It's back in its rightful name. I mean, again, I agree with you that the Young Bucks match wasn't terrible. It was, for me, 3 stars, maybe 3.5 stars. Going into Will Osprey versus Pac, which was easily 5 stars for me. For me, that what the heck? We are seeing a rising Pac, which is the Pac that we wanted to see in 2019, just right up to the top,
Yeah, I think Pac in AEW, he's kind of been hindered a lot by injuries, and then obviously the pandemic, and same story for a lot of wrestlers. But I think the crazy thing to me about Pac is, even though he hasn't wrestled a ton in the last up until this year, like the last couple years, he still wrestles at like an elite level. And I think this match really showed that. I think commentary really sold that, like, if it wasn't for Pac and like Pac's generation, Will Osprey doesn't make it, because they paved the way for Will Osprey.
Mm-hmm.
And they really played on the dynamic of Pac being like the more knowledgeable wrestler. He's like the veteran of the match. He knows all the tricks, and he knows all of Will Osprey's tricks because Pac designs them. And there was like such a cool dynamic of that match. And I love that Pac not only had a great showing here, but he comes back later in the show and is terrifying. I thought this match had so much hype going into it, and expectations were so high. So in the back of my mind, I was a little bit worried they might miss the mark that I've set for them. But not only did they meet the mark that I set for them, they surpassed it. This match was so good. It was like my hands were shaking. One of my friends, he texted me and he was like asking what I thought about it, and because he was excited. And I was like, I need a break. I need to go for a walk. And then I can't go for a walk because it's Willow Kris immediately after.
I know.
but I think Will Osprey's 2024, I think, is the best year wrestlers had in wrestling probably ever. Like, he is just firing. Like, every match is an instant classic. And Pac, always underestimated, always in the shadow of, you know, the other stars at AEW. And you get them here. Obviously, there's the wrestling similarity. Obviously, stylistically, they wrestle similarly. But, like, this was such a great match. And the crowd was so insane for it. They were begging these two to destroy each other.
Mm-hmm.
It was so talented. And Kate, yes, I have friends. And I have friends that are men.
Oh my gosh.
Kate, sometimes me and Kate, we are soulmates. And so, yeah, it's difficult sometimes. But yes. Don't worry, Kate. I love you the most. But what did you think? What thoughts on Pac?
Okay. Generally,
yeah.
So generally, Pac is like arousing to me, and not in like a sexual thing, so don't make that like a thing. But him as a wrestler, it makes me nervous, right? It makes my blood go, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, okay. You know, I'm getting hyped up as we speak. It's like a shot of caffeine, right? A shot of 8 shots of espresso, like back to back to back, and you're like, okay, that's how you wrestle on a weekly television. So him pulling out the stops in general on a pay-per-view, as well as in one of the best matches that I've ever seen him perform, next to Kenny Omega, everything pulled out all the stops for me, and I felt very sports entertained here.
Yes.
There was a couple spots that I wanted to mention that Will Osprey catching Pac doing a moonsault, only for him to turn it around into a tornado DDT. Like, the athleticism of both of these athletes, both of these wrestlers, astounds me. But to do something of that nature, where a moonsault going backwards, and he has to catch that momentum to literally move his body in the opposite way, I don't understand how you can do that with your body. Because, again, I'm not an athlete. Pac is a superhuman athlete. Will Osprey, superhuman athlete. I don't understand. I turned wrong in bed and I'm walking with a limp for a week. These men doing these things, I'm like, how is that possible? Part.
Because Will Osprey does this every match in 2024. And you have Pac, who has like barely wrestled in the last few years. Like he shows up, but like barely. Mm-hmm. And somehow they both wrestle at an elite level. So like, is it genetic? Like, are they born to be wrestlers?
Like, you born to be psychotic, sickos.
I need to see Pac's childhood photos to see if he Because like in my head, I'm imagining grown-up Pac, and then you just like shrink him a little bit, and
with those
I imagine he came
tree trunk legs.
Yeah, I imagine he was born like he's like 15 pounds, and he's just solid muscle as a newborn. Like I imagine he's like crawling at 2 weeks. Because how?
Sounds like an X-Man, like a genetically like mutated.
Yeah, he's doing backflips before his first birthday.
That is insane. I love it so much. There was also a spot on the apron, which the hardest part of the ring. Oh my boy.
Yeah.
It was like a German suplex and a poison rana all in one on the apron, and it was like, do these men even have necks after this? Like,
no.
How can we do that? Made me want to vom, but also more, please. Like, also, I do have to say, Will Osprey has been, for the past couple months, really battling with the Tiger Driver, right? He's wanting to retire the Tiger Driver just because of how it has recklessly hurt people in kayfabe, not real life. I'm just telling you that.
Yeah.
Will Osprey's Tiger Driver is nasty business. Nasty business. And when he does it, and when he finally performs it, and when he's like, you know what, I've done everything, I've tried to do anything to put this guy away, and I got to do it, and then he looks at the destruction. It reminds me of Dragon Ball Z, and I'm going to relate so many things to Dragon Ball Z because anime and wrestling is basically the same thing, if I'm honest. But it just reminds me of every time that Goku is like, I am a Super Saiyan and I cannot defeat this guy. I just have to go Super Saiyan. And he does it, and everything around him is destroyed. And then he sees his foe, right? It's whatever, Frieza, whatever person he's trying to annihilate, coming up from the rubble. And it's like, you literally just destroyed everything around you, your whole body, everything about you. You're sucking all this energy out of yourself, and it's still not enough to put away your competitor? What? So basically, Will Osprey is a Super Saiyan. Yes. And so is Pac. So
you know what? I feel like Will Osprey would love that comparison, because this whole Assassin's Creed like brand deal he has going on, I know that he's a nerd.
Absolutely.
I know it. But then also during this match, Ricochet is watching, and he's backstage, he's watching, which I'm so glad that they're not wasting any time, that we're getting into Ricochet Osprey, which that is, it's going to be such a good match. Like, it's hard for me to imagine a match that would top this Pac match, right? I think it might do it, but later on in the show, Will Ospreay is getting interviewed, blah, 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 yapping away. Ricochet comes. He's basically like, yeah, I'm coming for you. And Will Ospreay said, no. Go talk to Tony Khan. Yeah. Get yourself some warm-up matches. Get yourself some wins. And then come talk to me.
And he's little accent. I love that.
He's very Ospreay's very much like, I'm a champion.
Yeah.
I don't wrestle losers.
You're not. Right.
And I love that brattiness. Mm-hmm. I was like, Brat Summer, Will Ospreay.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I did want to mention, so the last sequence of moves before the end, because Pac countered the Stormbreaker, which is like the move to end all moves, into this, like, I don't know if it was a Poison Rana or Hurricane Rana, I don't know. One goes turning one way, Pac's body moves in ways I don't understand. But then Will Ospreay rolled that into a Styles Clash, and I screamed, "Oh my God, Styles Clash!" And out to the side, my friend Alana goes, "As in AJ Styles?" I'm like, "Yes, as in AJ Styles. I'm so proud." And I started crying, and I missed the ending because I was like, I have a friend who knows something. Oh my gosh. So but I just call it the Styles Clash. I don't know if it's named after any. I think it is a Styles Clash, right?
It is,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every time I hear,
tell me.
Every time I hear Styles Clash or I see a Styles Clash, I think about way back in the old BTE days, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks used to call it the Stiz Cliz. And now every time I see it or someone says Styles Clash, my mind goes back to BTE. And it's just Matt Jackson going, Stiz Cliz, brother. Every time. They poisoned my brain. Like, if you watch all of BTE, you're not the same person. They're in your head. It's a psyop at the end of the day. That's what I think.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, Will Osprey can do whatever moves he wants to do. I'm waiting for the day where he pulls out the one-wing angel. And he's, like, as babyface Will Osprey, not trying to taunt Kenny Omega, pulling it out because he knows that that's the next level and he needs to do it to win because he needs to win this match. And he knows that Kenny Omega has done it and this is his power. I'm just saying. I'm into
it. Any last thoughts about Will Osprey and Pac? Sorry, I'm thinking about Ricochet. Sorry.
I'm really glad this match was like smack dab in the middle because I feel like quality wise it should have been towards the end of the show because you like to build, but there was just so much going on over there. It would have been lost in the shuffle. It wouldn't have gotten like the attention that it needed. But I think that this is, to me, one of the best wrestling matches I've seen. Definitely one of the best matches of 2024. We have a super chat from Superman Bass Fisher who says, Pac is awesome and someday Tony Khan will realize it. I think Tony Khan realizes it.
I think he does.
I think the issue with Pac has been injuries, obviously. I think also COVID and travel and things really hurt and like it's hard to get back into it. But I think coming out of All Out with how Pac was like on screen multiple times and he had an important role every time, I think that we're going to get into it again. And I fully anticipate when, not if, when Kenny Omega returns, I think we're going to get that match again because they have unfinished business. Oh, also Omega versus Ricochet. Oh, so good. Okay. We cannot talk about Kenny Omega. We will completely derail. I need Kenny Omega though.
I need him back. My shirts are just, I want to make sure that when he comes back, my shirts are clean and ready.
Oh, I have mine ready. I have my special occasion Kenny Omega shirt at the ready.
You have a special occasion? Do you have like casual, business casual, special occasion?
It is, I think I bought it in 2019. It was one of his first AEW shirts. It's gray. I've worn it once. Maybe twice. I think I wore it once on Tag Talk when Kenny Omega returned. And I think that's it, actually. It's my special occasion one. But, when he returns, I'll wear it. Because he needs it. I love Kenny Omega so much. And we need to stop talking about Kenny Omega because now my heart is racing.
Oh.
I love that man.
Speaking of heart racing, Chicago street fight. Okay. Kris Statlander versus Willow Nightgale. I sometimes have a problem with some of these street matches because I go, whatever city, street match. So when I think whatever city, I think what makes this city iconic that it's specifically Chicago coded, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that there was much about this other than maybe the dog collar. Because it harkens back to All Out 2022. So if you were going to have a Chicago street match, I wanted to ask you, what would you have that's specifically Chicago coded?
Pizza.
Great answer. Thank you for coming to our show. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Put a deep dish pizza in someone's face. A deep dish pizza, by the way, takes about an hour to like 70 minutes to bake properly because it's
crazy
so thick.
And to me, and this might be controversial, I don't think it's worth it.
Oh.
I don't.
I mean, I always think it's like eating lasagna but in pizza.
That's what I was about to say. It's just lasagna.
Yeah. But I like lasagna. I mean, if you didn't know, lived in Jersey for a very long time. Part of my growing up was in Jersey, and you couldn't go a block without seeing an Italian restaurant. So anything that's pasta, anything that has sauce, it's basically baby formula for me, you know?
Baby formula? It's crazy. I can imagine you as a little baby with a bottle full of tomato sauce. You know how like they give babies Cheerios? They like cut up pizza crust and pasta, and that's what you had.
I'm so into it. That would be hilarious.
That's crazy.
Oh, okay. So the Chicago street fight match, we had like kendo sticks. We had obviously mentioning chains and tacks. Oh, okay. So what did you think of this, Kiley? Because I gotta know.
I tweeted, I think that match was women's match of the year, and I mean it. It was way better than it had any business being. It was, I think, top 3 women's matches like in AEW history. I think it was so well done.
Mm-hmm.
I think both Kris Statlander and Willow really committed to like the violence aspect of it. I mean, it wasn't the steel cage match that we'll see later, but nothing reaches those heights. But I think they did a very, very good job of making sure you knew that this was a heated blood feud, that they were friends turned enemies, and commentary, of course, Excalibur yelled about it 50 times during the match. But what I personally really enjoyed was seeing Willow kind of step outside the bounds of like the Willow character that's been created, this bubbly, friendly, loves everybody character, and be a little edgier and a little more violent, and be willing to do things that the Willow character, the bubbly Willow, would find reprehensible.
Right.
So we saw Kris Statlander being evil Kris Statlander, ready with weapons, ready to beat up Willow. And Willow was like matching her, like step for step, you know, keeping pace, which I feel like in the match, I don't think Kris expected. And so that was like an interesting dynamic that played out. But I think the obvious, like crazy spot was the Kris Statlander split onto the tacks. And like the tacks like embedded in her inner thigh and like the back of her thigh. Because obviously you do a split in a pile of tacks, you're going to get tacks in places tacks should not be. And they were there the rest of the match.
Yeah.
They were in the leg. But you know what? I respect it. And she took one for the team.
Yeah.
It was really funny when they brought out the collar and the chains. I was like, oh, it's like a little mini match inside of our big match.
Oh, that is baby. That is so cute.
Like, oh, our stipulation is ladder, but what's stopping me from bringing out, you know, the dog collar match? Or like, oh, our stipulation is ladder. It's already no DQ. Why don't I bring out all this other stuff? And we could have a little mini match inside of our big match. More people should do that. Call Tony Khan. Tell him.
Okay. You better do it or else, Tony Khan.
I was so tickled when they brought that out. I was like, ooh, a mini game.
It's like in Mario Party, right? You have little mini games.
I loved it. I was so excited.
Yeah.
This was so good.
This was really good. There were a couple spots that I want to note. You mentioned the split into the tack spot.
Yeah.
Which, as someone who has a thigh tattoo, that one regret that I say is I probably, because my thigh tat, my FE thigh tat, 5 hours, right? And the part that I had to take the most breaks were towards the inner thigh.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, I know that tacks isn't the same as tattoo, but any shot to the nerves in between the inner thigh or any part of the, like, upper leg, it gives me, like, the heebie-jeebies, you know? It's like seeing someone's finger broken, like, you know, dislocated finger. It's like, I'm remembering all of this pain. I do not like this.
Yes.
But I loved it in wrestling, so it's fine. There was a spot where I think that Willow took a lot of big bumps in this match. She ate the nastiest. I just keep saying nasty. I don't know. It's because I've been watching too much Love Island. But she ate a power bomb through the announce table, which I thought already was like, oh, that looked sick. And then there was another spot where Kris threw her into the guardrail, and like the reverb, I was like, oh, looks like she like snapped her neck back into place. Jesus. There was also Kris taking a bump where she missed Swanton off the top of the rope through the table, and Willow looked like she didn't really support her fall, so it looked a little like the way they both thudded. I don't know how else to say that. The way that they both thudded through that table was a little gross, but I think it made the match. I was surprised that Stokely wasn't more interfering, more hindering the match. He did bring out those weapons, which I kind of wish that he came out with a shopping cart rather than a trash can alone, because it would be akin to Raven, which love you, dude. But this match, the intensity, the brutality of it all, the mini match in between, it really showed that these women, even though that they've been in street fights before, right? They tag team together in a street fight, and then now together they have improved like greatly, that they can handle a type of stipulation like this. They can keep your attention, keep your disbelief that, you know, they're just wrestlers wrestling. Like, I truly believe that both of these women felt all the betrayal, all of this disgust with each other, that they truly wanted to end each other. And the end with the choke, with the chain over the mouth, it was so gross. And the fact that this is only clocked in at under 15 minutes, all of this action under 15 minutes. Insane. Yeah. Insane.
And I think that, like, I have 2 points. One, I think that they both realized that they were on a card that was full of elite level men's wrestling. I mean, Osprey Pack, Danielson Perry, obviously the cage match, and the 4-way that we'll get to with Okada. And they knew that they needed to do something to set themselves apart. They needed a different flavor, a different vibe, and they did it. And even commentary was really stressing, like, look how far our women's division has come. We have the best roster, the best talent. And I do think the AEW women's division is one of the best in wrestling. Definitely at least in North America.
Miles.
It was so well done. And I was like so invested in this match, I didn't notice the time passing. And I think for me, what I really enjoyed, obviously Kris Statlander won, but what I really enjoyed was seeing the crowd, the wrestling fans, get invested into the match, and not in we're watching wrestling and we are just going to do our chants and whatever. They really felt they bought into every spot. They cheered when they needed to. They were, astounded when they needed to. And I thought this was just excellent. And I really do think it was the best women's match of the year that I've seen. I thought it was just absolutely everything it needed to be. And it was really crazy to go from a match like Osprey Pack, which is a superhero style of wrestling, into this like gritty, down and dirty brawls type match. And 2 completely different vibes, 2 different stories, all that kind of stuff, but both like equally excellent. And I was really, really happy to go on Twitter and see almost everybody having the same praise about the match. It was excellent. It was one of the best. And I think looking ahead to Mercedes Shida, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I think it was the best women's match on the card.
Yeah.
And I I was so glad that it was on the main card. So pleased with it. I loved everything about it. And I loved Willow. Like Willow's hair. First of all, she looked beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Loved the new hair.
The hair, the braids, the color, everything. Needed those pants. Yes. Those lavender pants. I don't know.
And she came across in this match as tough.
Mm-hmm.
Not, happy-go-lucky Willow. She came across as tough. And Kris obviously was going to come across as tough because she is doing this whole character. But Willow, I think this was like a really, 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 even at a loss, a really important moment in Willow's trajectory in AEW. So it was a 10 out of 10 from me. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Well, we do go into that four-way of the AEW Continental Championship. Kazuchika Okada versus Three Bitches. Konosuke Takeshita versus Mark Briscoe versus Orange Cassidy. It just made me want to see Okada versus Takeshita.
Oh, yeah. But this match was really good. I think Mark Briscoe was kind of like a surprising good time in this match. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously, I'm always excited to see Mark Briscoe. I'm always going to cheer for him. All that stuff. But he was surprisingly excellent in this match. Like, he really showed out. He rose to the occasion. Because obviously, you're put in the ring with Okada and Takeshita. You got to show out. And he did. And he kind of to me, stole the show in a few moments. But the Okada Takeshita face-off, the drama of it all, the unmatched. Takeshita, like Daniel Garcia, I think is one that we can see his trajectory and the push that he's going to get. But Okada Takeshita, what a matchup. My God. And I think because Okada has kind of been wrestling not comedically, but almost like he's humoring AEW and like humoring his opponents because he knows the Young Bucks are going to get him what he needs and all that kind of stuff. I think Okada Takeshita, that could be a good match where Takeshita as an opponent pushes Okada past that, pushes him to his limits, and then we see the return of the Rainmaker and the elite wrestler that he was in New Japan. Not that he isn't here, but I think we're playing a character. I think that would be just incredible. Absolutely. And I think Takeshita should look at Don Callis and be like, get me that match. Why don't I have that match? What are you doing?
Right.
Don Callis, what are you doing for him? Nothing. Whining on commentary. That's what Don Callis is doing.
I didn't say it. Don't come after me.
Come after me, Don Callis. Come after me, and that way I don't have to come after you. Period. The crowd hated him too. And the crowd was chanting like F Don Callis or something along those lines. And Tony Schiavone was like, oh, wow, Don, they really don't like you here in Chicago. And Don Callis goes, I haven't done anything. I'm just talking.
You haven't done anything.
I despise Don Callis and his ugly entrance song and his ugly suits and his bald head. And I need him to go away.
Do you remember what Takeshita's music was? Because I forgot about Takeshita's original entrance theme.
I don't remember. All I remember is Don Callis's earthquake wall.
Yeah.
Annoying song, which is even worse in person. Even worse in person. But no, I think like the big come away from this match was the Okada Takeshita face-off, the hype around it. I think we're going to do that match in one of the 50 pay-per-views they have to the end of the year. And it's going to be game-changing. And I think Takeshita wins.
That would be so hard. I need it. I need it like I needed Kota Ibushi and Jay White, many, many moons ago. I need this in my body immediately. I really liked the conglomeration working together, Mark Briscoe and Orange Cassidy. There was a moment between them, and they had that moment, and then they were beating the hell out of each other. That was really nice. I really like that because it does kind of suspend my disbelief of like, okay, these guys are in like a pseudo faction or whatever, and then they're just like, I like to beat people up. because I truly believe that that's how Mark Briscoe shows his appreciation for you, is like, let's have a little squabble. Let's do this. And that's just how they show their affection. So I really like that. But that face off between Okada and Takeshita was just
next level.
I need it.
And you know what's crazy is that's obviously a match that AEW has in their back pocket, but we don't have Kenny Omega, we don't have Jay White. You think about like all the talent that are missing. Mm-hmm. AEW has like fields of matches planted, like fields of like 5-star classics just waiting to be harvested.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. I was talking about it last night, and I was like, we're missing Adam Cole. We don't have Jay White. We don't have Kenny Omega. Like all these talent, and yet we're still getting Osprey Pac, Okada Takeshita is teased, Mercedes and Shida, like, and we just have them simmering. Which AEW can like pull them out at the drop of a hat.
I mean, if you watch New Japan, you knew the history. I'm going to mention Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega and Okada have so much history, right?
Yes.
And I believe the last person in New Japan to give Kenny Omega a loss was Okada, correct? I think that was at Wrestle Kingdom before everything started. Right? Mm-hmm. Was it Okada?
Well, Tanahashi.
Well, Tanahashi. Never mind. Yeah. But we know that Okada has beat him, so to speak.
Yeah, multiple times.
Multiple times. All in 2023, who pinned Kenny Omega was Takeshita. And then at All Out last year, who beat Kenny Omega? Takeshita. So both of these men also have had, like, we've beat the best wrestler of our time, because I think that Kenny Omega is one of the best wrestlers of our time. So they both have beat the best of the best. Mm-hmm. So can we just have a best off? You know what I mean? Like, can we just
best in the world?
Other?
Yeah. Best in the world stipulation, incoming Shane McMahon.
Okay. I'd like it in my brain when I say it out loud and you
I
don't like it anymore.
No, I agree. I think that, and like I said earlier, I think that Okada has been intentionally, for story, mind you, coasting, doing like the bare minimum to, you know, get his title, to like get his AEW paycheck in story.
Mm-hmm.
In story, I have to stress that because I see the discourse online. And I think Takeshita will be the one that like pushes him to his limit. And if it's not Takeshita, I think it's got to be Kenny Omega, but I don't think Kenny Omega's coming back soon, so it's got to be Takeshita, because it has to be someone who, like, one, has a connection to Okada, and two, can like match him step for step. And I think that there's very few wrestlers in the world who can do that. And I think Takeshita's one of them. I think Osprey's one of them. I think Jay White has proven over and over again that he's one of them. But I think Takeshita's the wrestler who like benefits the most from being in that position. And I think that they have big plans for Takeshita through the winter, like through the fall, through the winter. So I'm excited by it. I really freaking am. And you know what? If Takeshita beats Okada and then we get Kenny Omega versus Okada in AEW, I'm fine with it. Because when Kenny Omega comes back, we're in crunch time, okay? Because I have so many matches I need, and he cannot be doing this. I need to take a year off BS anymore. Put him on screen. Make him wrestle every week. I need Jay White. I need Osprey. I need Okada. I need Takeshita. I need Adam Cole. I need Bryan Danielson.
Field right now.
I need Daniel Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
I need Ricochet. I need Pac. Like, we have dozens of Kenny Omega matches that we need.
Mm-hmm.
Right before, I don't even want to say that word. But we just need the matches. I don't even want to think about Kenny Omega's career ending. Don't even bring it up.
And don't bring it up. Stop it.
We have so many matches to get through. But listen,
this match was really good. It did set things up.
Yes. It planted more seeds in the field.
I love it. I love matches that do that. Especially 4-way matches, you know?
Yeah.
It does. It did. It's
And
his
I
job.
will say, I thought the 4-way was a good change of pace from the singles. Excellent. I mean, we had a tag match, but
Yeah.
the last 2 matches, I thought it was a good change of pace. I thought it was good. Like every match on this card, I don't think any match brought the show down or dragged it down. Was this as good as, the Stellar Singles Classics or the Steel Cage? No. But it was excellent still, which is crazy to think about.
I know. Well, are you ready to talk about the TBS Championship match?
Let's do it.
We got the AEW TBS Championship match of Mercedes Monet versus Hikaru Shida. What did you think of it? I gotta know.
I loved this match. And like that, I was confused because people online were a little bit disappointed in it when I was not on Twitter during the match. I checked after.
Yeah.
I really loved this match. I thought it showcased, one, that Mercedes is a lot better than we saw at Wembley.
Yeah.
Thoughts about that aside. And 2, I think it reminded people that Shida is the ace. And I will say, I thought Shida, she wasn't as athletic or dynamic as I remember her being. Like there were a couple moments that to me dragged a little bit, and I don't know if it was Shida or if it was like some miscommunication in the match or what was happening.
Okay. Yeah.
But there were a couple moments that dragged, but I thought this was good. I thought it was miles better than Mercedes versus Britt Baker. It did its job.
Yeah.
I thought they both looked excellent. Both had excellent gear. The whole thing. The ending, the kendo stick ending, was a little convoluted.
I didn't like it.
A little rushed, a little strange, and I was not a fan of that. I also don't think Mercedes should have won. I thought this was Shida's time. But overall, I don't think this match was a bummer at all.
I have thoughts because you know that Mercedes Monet is my girl. I love her. There are lots of people who will fight tooth and nail for her. I can be critical of her. I do think that her new finisher I do not enjoy.
Oh yeah.
I think that it's difficult because her, bank statement into the submission hold that she had in WWE was so coded for her. It was so cut and dry, clear that like, wait, that's the bank. Wait a minute. Now I'm confusing the moves.
No, I know what you mean.
Right. The thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So her, needless to say, her finisher in WWE was very like the moment she did that, that the match was over.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone who has taken her Monet Maker or whatever, they're naming I feel like it's been called different things. I feel like every wrestler has taken it differently because it is awkward. It is relying on the athleticism of the other wrestler. And when she was having those matches before she was injured in New Japan, it looked even awkward on, some Joshi wrestlers that it has been on like, non-Joshi wrestlers. So it just, to me, is not, it's a fine final, finisher or whatever, for somebody else, so to speak. Okay. But I think that the match with Shida back a couple weeks ago on Dynamite was far better. They seem to have better chemistry then, but the character of Shida has gone far beyond what we saw her even just last month. This intensity, this person of I'm going to do anything to beat you, and not only just beat you, I'm going to make you pay, for what you're doing. Camille not being in the picture, not interfering, really solidified that Mercedes can handle these matches, can have chemistry with other wrestlers. So I do think that the Wembley match did not rely on Mercedes. I'm not gonna shit on Britt Baker. Sorry. I do think there's more repetitions needed, but there were just a couple spots that I was like, that's awkward. That's awkward. But I agree that Shida didn't seem as athletic as she usually does. But her Falcon Arrow, let me tell you, it is. I love Seth Rollins. It's better than Seth Rollins. It is.
That's bold.
Better, and Seth Rollins does it to perfection.
Yeah.
So I love Shida's Falcon Arrow. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. But the teasing of the kendo stick at the end, just I didn't need it. It just felt like, okay, you're trying to get some of the magic, the sparkle from the street fight that just happened. That was so brutal. I liked the style that they did. But yeah, the ending was just so, it's lukewarm for me. To me, like almost 3 stars, maybe 3 stars, a little less, but
yeah,
it
was good. And I think that it accomplished a few important things, showing Mercedes' upside, advancing Shida's new character. I think it was good. And I think for like where it was on the card, smash between, Okada and the hell that was to come in, the last 2 matches, I think it was fine. I don't think it matched up to the street fight, Willow and Kris. I don't think they would have had to done a lot to match up to that, though. So
absolutely.
And I don't want to like compare the matches just because they're women's matches, but I think coming out of All Out, I think both matches in conjunction, I think, signify the best of the women's division, where we're going moving forward. And like, I have no complaints about that at the end of the day. I think that Mercedes, we need to get her something that she can like really sink her teeth into storyline wise, because I think they intended the Britt Baker thing to be that. And I think fans didn't enjoy it. And I think Britt it was just a weird synergy between them. And so I don't know, but she needs something. She needs a Hangman Page moment where she has a feud that like defines her. Cause Hangman now is on like his 3rd feud that defines him.
Right. That's just a banger. I was telling my husband in the car on our way home that I'm like, Hangman hasn't had like a bad blood feud, like I get it. Continue.
And so I think that like once she gets something that's a little bit more substantial, and we can kind of like start peeling away the like superficiality of the CEO character, which I think it's clear she's putting on the CEO character as a guise. She's larger than life, presenting herself as. I think that there were moments in this match, like her frustration came through. Her like, she was just incredulous at a lot of things that are happening. I think that we're seeing shades of that coming in, like old school Sasha Banks, that character. And so I think we'll get there, but she needs an opponent that can match her in the ring. And also that like is in a spot where her opponent can have that level of conversation with Mercedes and like underscore that the CEO character is, a shield, and she can like almost like an MJF CM Punk vibe. And I don't know why that wasn't Shida, because I think Shida is like perfectly positioned to be that, but I think they want Shida to be a heel. And so maybe, I don't know, maybe Anna Jay. I've been petitioning for Anna Jay to come back as an ultra baby face and wrestle Mercedes. And I feel like I need to get more people on board.
Yeah, she did an amazing job over in Japan. How do you think that Mercedes championship run has been? Quality matches, memorable.
Yeah, I think she's been good. I think it's a TBS title, so I'm not expecting miracles, especially in the wake of how excellent the women's world title picture has been.
Right.
I think that she's definitely elevated the TBS title. I think she's had really great matches, but I don't think she's had a feud that I've looked at and been like, okay, that solidifies her spot in AEW, or something where I'm like, okay, I will look back at this feud in the future as, you know, something that was really instrumental in healing AEW's women's division. She's had great matches. Don't get me wrong. I think she's been excellent. I still think she's a huge benefit to AEW. I think she's been so important in elevating the women's division. But it definitely feels like we've a lot of like stop and go.
Yeah.
In a lot of her feuds and her stories. And so I just really need her to get something that is long term, that has like emotional depth, and isn't so like, oh, I'm the CEO, I'm the best, I'm going to prove that I'm the ace. I want it to be a little bit something more than that. And I think that we're on the cusp of that. And I think that the women's division as a whole is on the cusp of that. I think coming out of All Out and All In, but mostly All Out, I think the women's division has shown that it's capable of stories that are a little bit more complex. I mean, the segment with Sky Blue and Mariah May and Queen Aminata, some questionable things were said that I don't necessarily think have a place, but I understand why they were said, because it fits the Mariah May character. And I love to see Queen Aminata being pushed. And that's what I was talking about. I talked about on Twitter, I talked about on the show, and a lot of people like disagreed with me. But AEW has not been in the business of taking risks in a long time. And this show felt like a lot of risks were taken, and there was massive payoff. And Queen Aminata is one of those, where you take a talent who fans love, but she's not necessarily at that level, and you just put her there.
Yeah.
See
how she does.
See how she does. And that's where a lot of AEW's best moments have come from. So when I say AEW isn't taking risks, that's what I mean. I'm not talking about their TV deal. I'm not talking about their pay-per-views. I'm not talking about Wembley. I don't care about business. If I cared about business, I'd be in business school. I care about the people.
Kylie going into business.
If I went to business school, I'm telling you right now, you would have to kill me.
Oh my God.
I would be suffering, and I would make others suffer, because business is so stupid. So you'd have to kill me.
Okay.
And
I'm not gonna kill you, but I respect.
Well, I'm not going to business school, so
it is difficult because some of Mercedes Monet's best matches in WWE, best feuds, obviously the one with Bayley, obviously Bianca, obviously Charlotte, like these are like earmarked as like some of her best, you know, ever moments, right? And I think real fans, people who, you know, want to actually see wrestlers do well, be well, and have great showings, they want to see her echo that with all of the women that we love already. And so I'd like to see it a little bit I'd like to see it a little bit more personal on the Mercedes side, right? We get that she has this persona of like a stuck-up, you know, bitch, so to speak, but she does keep getting those wins. She does keep getting there. She does keep using, you know, Camille. Like, I want to see more of that, like, stuck up, but I'm actually good. Like what we've seen with like MJF. Yeah. You know, like scumbag kind of thing. We want to see that. Not the same, but we want to see those earmarked feuds of, remember when Mercedes was, you know, the TBS champion, you know, and remember those feuds. And I really don't want AEW to get lost in that, just trying to create bangers of matches. I need them to have bangers of feuds going into that. But we'll see. We'll see what's next. I'd like to see Mercedes and Thunder Rosa. I'd like to see Mercedes and Deonna Purrazzo.
Yes.
I want to see her against different kinds of wrestlers and different kinds of styles.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that Mercedes wrestles is very it's not heely enough. Like I want it to be more, you know, behind the back, you know, kind of kicking you while you're down, smashing people's face, taking off, you know, the what are the ring covers or whatever, the rope, whatever those are called. I don't know the technical name, but I want to see more of that, like Eddie Guerrero. Like she loves Eddie Guerrero so much, so be more of that. So, but okay,
no, I agree, and I think most people are on the same page. Where like we're waiting for them to really pull the trigger on Mercedes, and part of me is optimistic because it feels like there's so many stories and like character developments that are just waiting in the shadows in AW. Absolutely. And like once they start dropping them, I think they're going to be in a really, really good spot. And that kind of is like, for me, a good segue into Jack Perry, Bryan Danielson, because I think Jack Perry was kind of in that spot, which, oh no, I'll save it. So Jack Perry's entrance, excellent.
Absolutely.
So good. The radio dispatch audio, the bus, the Young Bucks, everything about it, the riot police, so good. Danielson, final countdown, always good. I don't know if YouTube will copyright us if I keep singing it. So
no.
Yeah,
sorry.
I was going to keep going.
That was not that song at all. Sorry.
No, we were composing. It's an original composition.
Yeah, it's original.
We actually own the intellectual rights to that YouTube.
Oh my gosh.
But Jack Perry, and I thought it was really funny. I expected a lot more CM Punk chants, but they were singing Cry Me a River. And they were booing him when they needed to. And Chicago loves Jack Perry. Which I was so like, because when the Young Bucks wrestle in Chicago, they get that. But I mean, it's always drowned out by other people, but they get that a little bit. And there was a little bit here with Jack Perry. But Chicago loves Jack Perry.
I know.
I was so surprised.
They're all jacking it. They're all jacking it with us.
All 9,000 or whatever, and all the viewers at home jacking it together. I was jacking it. I was jacking it pretty hard. And so I was really excited. Obviously, I'm excited for Final Countdown and Bryan Danielson. Hello. We're like savoring our last morsels of Bryan Danielson.
I know.
But Jack Perry is such a star. And if they don't air the Wembley footage, Jack Perry's not where he is. I fully 100% believe that.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. And so this match was really, really good. I think Jack Perry came across, or at least I came out of this match thinking this is Jack Perry's best match in AEW. I haven't seen all of his New Japan matches. I haven't like caught up all the way there. So I don't know. He might have had a better one there, but this was like the best I've seen Jack Perry. And Bryan Danielson was obviously excellent. Babyface vibes. My favorite part of this match, though, Jack Perry goes to do the yes chant, but he turns it into the middle finger, and it's a no chant. I was like, I thought it was so funny, and I thought this Jack Perry looked good. Don't get me wrong. But I love that he was really playing up the heel part of it, but he's smiling while he does it. He's maniacal. And Chicago ate it up. He served them a feast and they ate. They loved Jack Perry.
Yeah.
And they loved Danielson too, but they loved Jack Perry as a heel and as a bad guy. They loved him more than they loved the Young Bucks. Which I think there's reasons for. But I thought this, to me, was Jack Perry's best match.
I would agree. I think it would be really difficult with how seasoned Bryan Danielson is. He's the GOAT. It would be really difficult to have a bad match with Bryan Danielson. I know that they exist out there, but it would be really difficult if you are not athletic. to have a bad match with Bryan Danielson. To me, this match was another banger. Not as bangy as, you know, Will Osprey and Pac and the street fight, but definitely one of the better matches on the card.
100%.
I loved the crowd participation. I think that there were a couple matches where it was a little lacking. Obviously, the Mercedes one, the crowd participation was a little lacking towards the beginning. But the crowd participation during this match really was the supporting actor in this, right?
Yes.
There was a couple moments in the match that I wanted to mention. I really like that Bryan took control early on, right? He's doing a lot of the technical wrestling that I think that he could do miles around Jack Perry, because that's not Jack Perry's style. Yeah. But I don't think that Jack Perry let it slip at all, that he wasn't willing to go toe to toe. There was, I think, the moment that things started going outside the ring and then going back inside the ring was when the match started to like be a little less controlling. Okay, someone in a motorcycle needs to get a life.
It sounded like a UFO. I was like, oh. I was like,
okay, get a life. Okay, should I yell out my office window for them to get a life? But there was nasty looking suplexes hit by Bryan Danielson on Jack Perry that Jack sold the hell out of.
The knee.
Oh my God. That could solve my back problems, but also at the same time cause them. Jack Perry being in the cattle mutilation, which we have seen Yuta do successfully, but Bryan just does it so much better. It looks disgusting. There was a lot of focus on necks in this match. Again, obviously, Bryan Danielson having his neck issues, and it makes me feel things that are not necessarily great, because I want to preserve Bryan Danielson as much as possible, especially since he says he has to get surgery and all these things. And I'm like, okay, stop doing that. Stop. Because we know the stipulation, if Bryan loses the match, he's done.
Yeah.
He's done. So there is that upped ante, right? It's not like he's going to come back for seconds. That's it. We're done. And that knee was sick. Some would be critical of this match, thinking that it was a little bit of an overkill. I don't think Perry kicking out of things was an overkill. It just shows that Jack Perry, because I saw someone say like Jack Perry kicking out of some Bryan Danielson finishers were a little bit, I don't believe that, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, it's wrestling, but it's also Jack Perry is like, he's like this scrappy, guy. He's going to get out of anything, right? This scapegoat. He's going to do things, and he's going to get out of things that other wrestlers aren't going to be able to. However, he did not get out of this. Ending 27 minutes, these boys wrestled. Almost 28 minutes. But Bryan kicked his head in, and more knees, and Bryan retained. And it was kind of like that, okay, this is Bryan Danielson's show, that he is our AEW World Champion. This is exactly what we needed, because what do we know that's coming next, right? We know that more violence is happening. And so this was a great Bryan Danielson match. This was a great first pay-per-view match for Bryan Danielson to defend his title. It just shows what's going to happen at the end. And I know what's going to happen at the end. We have Wrestle Dream coming up. So, Kiley, I need your opinion. What did you think of the ending?
So, okay, let me run it down for people. So Bryan Danielson wins. Happy. Yay. All in vibes, right? Before this, the Young Bucks had come to interfere in the match. They had been chased off by Claudio and Wheeler Yuta into the crowd. We don't see them again. Then we see Luchasaurus in the ring. A really interesting moment with Jack Perry where they're kind of looking at each other like, hey, I know you. And commentary was like, look, it's the former AEW World Tag Team Champions. So teasing a reunion there, shelving it for now. Here comes Christian. Luchasaurus beats up Danielson for Christian. But then here comes Christian. He has his contract. He's ready. He's going to be world champion. He's stopped by Moxley looking like Mr. Clean. Moxley staying there in front of the whole patriarchy, including Mama Wayne. And he's like, going to defend my boy. And then obviously Claudio and Wheeler Yuta come back and Pac's there too. And they're like, and they chase off Christian. And I thought they were chasing off Christian and the patriarchy because they wanted to defend their friend. Little did I know they were chasing him off because they had ulterior motives. They go in the ring. Moxley kisses Danielson on the head. Claudio hits Danielson with an uppercut. There's this wonderful shot of Danielson sitting on the ring, and he's shocked. He's like so confused. And then they put a bag on his head and kill him. They suffocate him in the ring. Meanwhile, they're holding Yuta back. You remember they already teased at the beginning of the show the close mentor-mentee relationship between Wheeler Yuta and Bryan Danielson. Wheeler Yuta finally found his mentor, his home, like his found family, and they're holding him back like he's an annoying little boy who doesn't understand what's going on. And he's crying, and he's yelling for Moxley to stop. Moxley is so nonchalantly suffocating Bryan Danielson, like dead behind the eyes, nothing going on. They're holding Yuta back. He's screaming, he's crying. Eventually, Moxley and his cronies run off. Yuta runs to Danielson. They pull the bag off his head. They put an oxygen mask on him. Yuta's crying. They carry him really awkwardly backstage. Like he's a marionette doll. But like the big things coming out of that obviously are the Blackpool Combat Club heel turn, which I'm presuming now Pac is part of. And now we have our trios champions on different sides because Wheeler Yuta does not leave with them. He goes with Danielson and he's still crying. He thinks Danielson's dead. He thinks that he's watched his mentor get killed before his eyes by the people that he considered his like close teammates, his close friends, like everything that he'd been looking for in AEW. He thought he found in the Blackpool Combat Club, and they turned out his whole life around in 1 second. So like the big story is Wheeler Yuta coming out of this, which he should be. And this was just like to hear the crowd panicking, legitimately panicking, and to hear like commentary freaking out. And then afterwards, JR with like legitimate anger in his voice. JR sold this so well. JR was so excellent on the show. He sounded legitimately pissed off and terrified about what he had witnessed. And this whole thing came across as so emotional and so believable because it wasn't that they had put his head in a steel chair and they were going to stomp him. It wasn't that they had set him up for, a spot with the ring post or anything like that. They were suffocating him. And there's nothing that the crowd, nothing that Yuta could do to save him. And it's Moxley. So he's dangerous. And he was so nonchalant about it. It was so eerie.
I know.
So
the
terrifying.
vacancy in his eyes. Serial killer. Killer.
Yes. And the fact that we now have to presume that this has been planned for a long time, that they've all been in on it, and they've been, except for Yuta and Danielson, because obviously they think Yuta's a little brother who's probably going to yap, and Danielson obviously is the victim. And how long has Pac been involved with this? How long have they been in conversation with Pac about this?
Yeah.
When did this happen? How did they decide to do this? Why did they decide to do this? Like, there's so much story there, and I'm so excited because Yuta, Claudio, and Pac are trios champions.
Yeah.
And now they're split up and divided. So, like, they're definitely going to be like, you're one of us. We won these trios titles to keep you in the loop. You're one of us. And that's like the push and pull with Danielson, because he does feel more loyalty to Danielson than Claudio. But Eddie Kingston was right. Eddie Kingston told AEW, told everybody, Claudio Castagnoli's a snake. He's a liar. He's going to get you. And he did. He struck. He did. And I'm so
see his
excited.
post on Instagram.
Yeah. Because like Eddie explicitly said, Claudio will turn on you. He presents himself as like this nice guy, but he's a snake. He did it to me. He'll do it to everybody. And he was right.
Mm-hmm.
I think as much as Danielson says, I'm a liar, I lie for fun, whatever, he's not a snake in the way that Claudio is, and the way that Moxley is, the way we now know that Moxley is. Because we've never seen Moxley do something like this. We've seen Moxley in lights out matches, hardcore matches, violence, blood, all that kind of stuff, but never like this. So this definitely feels like a new era that we've entered into AEW. And I was so afraid because the plastic bag, like, I don't know if Danielson got a finger in there, so like whatever, but you could see the bag moving with his breath.
Right.
He was legitimately suffocating. And it was so terrifying. So terrifying to me. I loved it.
Ironic that like they used plastic, which is not biodegradable. That was my only joke. Sorry. They used something that was not biodegradable to try to murder.
Insult to
injury. He's been telling us the dangers of plastics this whole time. Yeah, this part, this was truly the moment where wrestling made me cry.
Yeah.
And the look in Yuta's eyes watching his mentor literally be murdered, right? It's watching him be, unalived right there. All the life draining out of Bryan Danielson to people that are just emotionless. Moxley, Claudio, emotionless. Pac, the way that he's holding back Yuta specifically so he can watch it. Sicko behavior. Absolutely sicko. And I feel like I was trying to think of like all the movies that we've seen where the young boy is watching the father be taken out and either, murdered or taken away from the family. And, the little boy is just so distraught. And last week I went to the Titanic exhibit, right? And they in the, the in ears or whatever, the tour guide or whatever, like had mentioned that there were tons of those moments where the children and the mothers were being separated from the fathers, and watching the lifeboats go down and watching as they know the demise, that their father has to stay on board and they will no longer be with us, and the anguish and agony that comes with it. Absolutely sick. Absolutely disgusting. I knew that Moxley was up to something when he came out a few weeks ago and told Tony Schiavone this isn't his show anymore. Something sick was happening.
Yeah.
And the crowd, again, supporting actors in all of this, because without the gasping.
Yeah, I just look at Moxley so nonchalant about all of this.
You're pulling that out!
Almost like about this attempted murder happening in the ring.
Had to happen.
I'm so excited for where this goes. And I tweeted this, and like I know people were like had opinions, but we talked about it last week on Wrestling Made Me Cry, that wrestling has for like so long been sort of reduced to happy moments or you're mad. And like the range of emotion isn't there. And I think AEW on this show, we had happy, we had mad, but we also had like discomfort, and we had distaste, and we had disgust, and all those sort of things. And this is one of the things where like this is one of the angles where you feel a little bit more than just, I'm not just mad at Moxley. I'm disgusted with Moxley, and I feel sorrow for Wheeler Yuta, and I'm worried about Bryan Danielson, and I feel like duped because I didn't believe Eddie Kingston about Claudio, and I'm confused about Pac because where does Pac fit into all of this? How, like, and I feel foolish because how did we not see it coming? And that, like, is where wrestling is at its best. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where they go from here, but I am so invested. And now I'm invested about Christian as well, because he clearly came out with the intent of cashing in his thingy, his contract.
Mm-hmm.
And he had Luchasaurus helping him, but Luchasaurus was kind of distracted for a second by Jack Perry. So now we have multiple stories happening within like a span of 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I don't know where we go from here, but I'm presuming on the horizon we're going to have a Jurassic Express reunion. I don't know how it'll happen. I don't know where, when, I don't know any logistics, but they definitely teased it, which was chef's kiss. We have a super chat from Delayed Grats who says, "What's up, Queens? Love this pay-per-view. It was a true festival of violence where one half of the AEW roster is either hospitalized or in jail. The TK character in kayfabe is a maniac who books and approves this." Thank you so much for the super chat. And I agree. The fact that there's 2 attempted murders back to back, mind you.
Back to
back, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
And those were like only 2 of the crimes committed in AEW in the last month or so. So Tony Khan, how he's getting these people out of jail, I don't know. We have arson, we have attempted murder. It's like we've escalated from like theft, like stealing shoes and belts and stuff. Now we're getting into felonies. And Tony Khan somehow has like an in with the feds to get people off. Like they're just not getting arrested. So I need a kayfabe explanation, Mr. Tony Khan, because especially for the steel cage match, the attempted decapitation, because that is, AEW doesn't accept liability for that. So clearly someone should have been arrested. But anyway, thank you so much for your super chat. It means the world, and I also love this pay-per-view.
All right.
If that wasn't clear.
Are we ready to talk about, any other thoughts with the betrayal? No, I was just overwhelmed with emotion. I feel like I need to watch it again.
Yes.
Because all I was thinking the whole time was, poor Wheeler Yuta.
Yeah, and AEW had tweeted that they weren't going to put up the clip of it because they don't approve of the actions. Like, they really sold.
Yeah, really selling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so now it makes sense, the Moxley, the angle for, I think it was Dynamite, where Moxley goes up to Jack Perry and the Elite backstage and he like praises Jack Perry, because it's not the same company anymore. Now Moxley is running things. And now, is there an alliance between Moxley and the Elite? Don't know. So sad.
The new face of wrestling made me cry.
Just a baby. Let's talk about the steel cage match before I start to cry.
Yeah.
So
there was. Go ahead.
I just have to say.
You got to say it.
Swerve's gear, he's wearing a picture of his house burning, Hangman sitting in front of his house burning down on his gear. It's like pasted there on his leg. He comes in. First of all, they don't lower the cage first, which I was like, okay, that's suspicious.
Something's weird.
The cage is not lowered. Something's weird. Little did I know it was so a murder could take place. Swerve is holding Hangman in place so that the cage will come down and crush his neck. And
insane.
And it would have happened if, so he's holding there, and Prince Nana comes up and it like pushes them out of the way because Swerve is going to get killed too.
Yeah.
He was ready to die.
Double homicide. Right there.
And he's like, it's not like Hangman's passed out. He's struggling. He's trying to get out of this, and he's just watching the cage descend onto him.
It was a little too close for comfort.
And that set the tone for this match.
I mean, we knew it was going to be like, because we've already seen, right, their street fight, drinking each other's blood, cinder blocks, everything. They stapled Hangman's child's craft project or whatever. Like, they've already done this. And in my brain, I'm going, how are they going to up the ante, utilize the steel cage to my belief that this required a lights out stage cage, steel cage, that it like this upped this requires it, because both of these men just want to murder each other. I truly believe that.
Like, legit.
That is, going into this, you burn his motherfucking house down. Like,
there's no coming back from that.
There's no handshake after the match.
Yeah.
The match ends when you stop breathing, type of thing. So I wasn't sure about how they were going to utilize weapons here, but there was a suspicious toolbox, and I was at the point of like exhaustion, and everyone asked, what is in the toolbox? And I said, oh, probably a snapping turtle, like something stupid. And everyone in the room looked at me, and I was like, what? You've never had, like, because it's the same box that like the exotic, reptile guy comes with. Like, that's a big utility box. That's what you put like snakes and stuff in. I'm glad it wasn't snakes, because I feel like I wouldn't have been able to handle it with everything. But the
pulled out a python. Like,
I don't think I could handle this. But like, they had to utilize the cage in some sort of manner. It wasn't even like 3 minutes in, and they like immediately started stapling each other, which I'm going, ow, that looks painful. And I'm looking at them, and you just see like the little bits of blood come from their chest. And then Swerve staples photos of his family to Hangman's chest. And
I loved it.
That was me. That was me screaming. And then there was barbed wire that came out, which I'm like, okay. Then the cinder block came out, and I was like, okay. The back scraping of Hangman's back on the cinder block. Just because we all have skinned our knees, right? We've all skinned our shins, our elbows, our like everything. But
and it was like a perfect rectangle of the cinder block.
Oh, there's no faking that. There's no gimmicking that. And then at the end of the match, Swerve literally wrecking his back by being like bent like a Barbie. You know what I mean? Like a Barbie literally breaking by the cinder block. It just made me feel a little yucky.
It was so. It was. Hi to Rob in the chat, by the way. I love Rob. It was the feeling during the match. It was very much like I felt unsettled, and I think the crowd felt unsettled, and it played to the benefit of the match, because like the cinder block thing was really scary. One, because first of all, it's a cinder block. You can crack your skull open and die.
Right.
And two, just like the feeling of, and the sound of Hangman Page hitting it, and then eventually Swerve hitting it, the perfect rectangle on his back, the blood. And also when the cage is coming down, Nana is like shoving stuff in the ring.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's like, let's go, let's go. And one thing that really, really stuck out to me, and it's like permanently embedded in my brain now, is the sound, because they were throwing each other into the ring back and forth, like into the cage. The sound of them hitting the actual post of the steel cage, as opposed to the chain link. Like, that was definitely an intentional choice to throw each other into the metal post and not the chain link, because we're going for murder here, not maiming. And just the metallic thud, and then again 30 seconds later a thud, over and over and over again, like drums, like one after the other. And it was just as violent, I think more violent than their death match, but a completely different flavor. The death match, I think you could tell that they were trying to work out their anger and like take it out on each other and hurt each other. This felt so different.
Yeah.
It was a complete, and that's, I'm so glad the feud continued because this was, like, it's very, very rare to me in wrestling that I watch a match and I'm like, oh, they legitimately want their opponent to die. This felt like they wanted the other person to die. And then Heyman ends up getting the win and he walks up the ramp. So he wins by knockout. He gets Swerve in a chair. He hits him. It's a knockout. They ring the bell. Yeah, he wins by knockout. Swerve is like dead. Not really dead, but like dead. And so Hangman like goes up the ring. And then interestingly, he's watching the doctors like tend to Swerve in the ring. And he starts walking back down, and the crowd, like the shrill screams of people in the crowd, all etched into my brain forever. Because there were people who were like excited to see the action continue, but there was like legitimate fear from a lot of people. And Hangman stops when he hears it and he walks back. But in the moment, you see him looking at Swerve and he starts to walk back. He looks worried. He looks worried for Swerve. He looks like he went too far, that he killed Swerve. And so that it was like a shades of old Hangman peeking through like the psychosis. And it was just, that ending part was so good. Swerve is just dead now, presumably. Yeah. But everything in this match was like excellent. Just like I have to rewatch it. Like now that I know how it ends, I can rewatch it and maybe feel a little bit more about it. But it was just it was unsettling, it was disturbing, it was out of a horror movie. And it worked. Yeah. It worked. And people were complaining about the syringe. Hangman had a syringe and he like injected Swerve's mouth with something. Listen, that was tame. That was tame. You guys don't go to the doctor and get your shots?
Not in my mouth.
Block. They could have broke his spine. And we're worried about a needle? Tame.
You're sick, Kiley. So I do want to mention that the Swerve stomp through the table, that spot, disgusting. I agree with you on all the sentiments that this was very different from their street fight. Yeah. Is it a Texas death match or whatever? I don't know.
Texas death match.
Street match, death match, whatever. This cinder block didn't disintegrate, which I thought was a little sus because I was like, oh yeah, they could actually hit their head on that. Also mention that there was a stake, which I had to look up how to spell steak, like the correct steak. And I said, oh, shades of Buffy the Vampire Slayer here. So I was like, he's going to pierce him through the heart with a shard from his house.
I had the same thought. I was like, he's trying to kill a vampire, which is a natural follow-up to the blood drinking.
Yeah.
He had a piece of Swerve's house, and he was going to shank himself a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't work out that way. Hangman ends up getting stabbed a couple times with the shank.
Sick.
It was just crazy. And the look on Swerve's face when he saw the piece of his burnt house. Because now I have to come into this thinking Hangman not only set his house on fire, he watched it.
Yeah, he waited until everything.
And then he went rummaging and he found himself a shake and he's like, you're coming home with me. And then he brought it to the match. Sick. And he also brought barbed wire to the match.
Sick.
It was
brought a needle. Did they have a sharps container on site? Do we need to contact OSHA?
It was lights out unsanctioned.
That's true. So it didn't actually happen. None of this is real. There was a spot where Hangman took out Swerve's grill.
Yes.
Right? I don't know anything about grills. It's not part of me. It's not whatever. Wouldn't that be painful? Because like they have to mold them into your mouth and like they kind of set on things. So like I feel like that would hurt. So when I saw him doing that, I thought that he was going to like literally take out his teeth in some degree.
Yeah.
But there were no teeth taken out. He did it safely. And who knew? Then I was like, oh, okay, no teeth came out. And then all of a sudden that syringe spot came out. And the fact the camera was very zoomed into Swerve's face, disgusting. As the horror film expert over here, Kiley, it has there been a horror movie where they've used syringes before?
Well, yeah. I mean, like there's obviously like the horror movies where someone's like stabbed and sedated and things like that. But it felt very much like Saw.
Yeah.
In a sense. And for me, maybe I'm just desensitized to the syringes. Because like, well, one, I went to paramedic school. And I've seen a lot. Because you have to do a lot to pass. Okay. So like that to me is like child's play. Your little syringe. And also I didn't see the needle, so it was a small gauge needle, so probably didn't hurt him at all. But I will say, well, one, we don't know what was in it. We don't know. Was it a paralytic? Could have been. Was it poison? Could have been. We don't know. We don't know. It could have been. It could have been Captain America serum. We don't know. But crazy. When he stabbed it, it was the moment was done really fast. Like, but I will say that moment, in conjunction with removing the grill, in conjunction with the cinder block, with the tension of it all, it did feel like Saw. Yeah, and some people in the chat are saying it was Novocaine, did numb his mouth, that kind of stuff, which I don't think Hangman's injecting Swerve with anything at all. I don't think there's a needle. I think they've removed the needle. I think there's water in the syringe, and he's putting water into his mouth. I don't think anybody's getting injected.
Dr. Hangman.
But I didn't see it. Like, I think because where he positioned the syringe is very much at in the cheek, gonna go straight under the tongue, down the throat. It was very. We're not dying, but
I've never done that before. So how do I know? I don't know.
And like to me, and also like I grew up in a place where there were needles everywhere. Like, so maybe I'm just desensitized to that, but I feel like the cinder block was a lot scarier.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, because I'm not a wrestler, I don't know. I'm guessing that the spots that they did with the cinder block were as safe as they could be, because it was, your back, it was as flat as you could be, but the margin for error was really small, because like obviously you're dealing with like head, neck, and spine, so like someone could get seriously injured, and just the scraping on Hangman's back was jarring. It was jarring. It looked like road rash. That's what it looked like. And just the sounds of the match, I think, to me, played out. Because there's obviously, they're both yelling. They're both screaming at each other. There's, like we talked about earlier, like the metallic thud of the cage. There's Nana yelling. There's JR on commentary, and the other commentary people, but mostly JR, who's like distraught at what is occurring. And commentaries actively worrying for people. There's like a hush in the arena, and people are talking amongst themselves, like trying to, and it's just such, the whole thing, like everything came out exactly as they wanted it to. Just to end with Hangman, like the small glimpse of humanity in Hangman. It was just, I loved everything about this. I loved every single thing about this. And I don't know where Hangman goes from here, because like he can't go back to the Elite, because he's now had this like crisis of conscience, which the Elite, they don't, because they're bad guys, and so they're probably happy that he did this, but to him, like, now he's starting to feel a certain type of way about it. Like he's coming out of the haze, and he doesn't know what to do about it, and so I don't know where Hangman goes from here, but like that's the great thing about Hangman. Like, he can do anything. He is the ace of AEW. And Swerve, I'm presuming, is going to come back like later because I think Sean reported, and a couple people reported that he's they were writing him off so he could take time off and come back. I'm presuming Swerve comes back and goes for the world title. I don't
at Wrestle Dream or
because what I would like to see and what I would think would be interesting is Swerve comes back and wants revenge on Hangman, and Hangman won't do it. He's like, I won't. Not only I won't go back into that space, but I won't do that to you again. Like, I cannot be that person again. And I think Hangman's anger has completely fallen away. And I think Hangman after this match, I think he's grieving. I think that's where he's at. And so it'd be really interesting to see how he would respond to Swerve coming back to challenge him. Because Swerve is going to be fired up. And
absolutely.
To see Hangman a little bit more passive, a little bit more complacent, confronting that. I think that is a new dynamic for the feud that would be interesting. But yeah, Hangman is the main character.
Some of the best feuds in AEW have been Hangman versus Kenny Omega, Hangman. I'm sorry, my brain is blank. Hangman versus
CM Punk.
CM Punk. Sorry, I forgot his name.
You've been live for 2 hours. You're allowed. It's okay.
I forgot CM Punk's name. Oh my god. But yeah, some of the best feuds have been Hangman, and
he's such a believable actor.
Yeah. I believe everything that he does and says and everything that he is, and this Swerve feud is going to keep going, and
I'm so excited.
I believe that they both hate each other, so
I'm so excited. The steel cage match, I think, was an all-timer. I think we'll talk about it for ages and ages and ages. It was something completely different from wrestling, completely different from AEW. And I think Hangman, and sometimes I forget that Hangman's as young as he is, but I think Hangman now is like back to where he was before losing the title to CM Punk in terms of like fan perception and status and that kind of stuff and fan interest. I think he's right back where he was, because I think losing the title to CM Punk deflated him a lot. But we're back, and I think heading into this stretch, which like the fall into the winter is like Hangman's prime time. I'm so curious what he does. I'm so curious. Because I have no idea. Genuinely no idea.
I don't know, but we'll see. Wrestle Dream is in Tacoma, Washington, which is Swerve's hometown. So it's going to feel personal, and it's going to keep being personal. So all in all, Kiley, what was your thought of the entire show? Do you feel good talking about it now?
Yeah. Also, SP3 is in the chat, and I love SP3. SP3, Hangman Page is the best character in wrestling. That primal scream was like the biggest revenge climax I've ever seen. Shout out to SP3. All of you should watch everything SP3 is in. Go watch True Heat. Everything. Love SP3. But I will say you're 100% right, because Hangman Page, he's the cowboy. He's the cowboy shit. He's the millennial, overcoming his obstacles, all that kind of stuff. But I think people forget, before AEW, Hangman Page was scary. And especially in Ring of Honor, he did some like really scary stuff. So I'm excited for where he goes. He's a great actor. He's so believable, so likable. And the thing about Hangman is he can reel you in with his niceness and his relatability and all that kind of stuff. And then he squashes your heart. And I think at the end of the show, we had the primal scream, the victory, all that kind of stuff. But then he has no direction. And in his head, he knows that it's like when you hyperfixate on something so hard, like a goal, that you neglect every other part of your life. And now he's in that spot where he has nothing else in his life. He has nowhere to go. Like, what does he do now? So love Hangman. But overall, I thought this show was excellent. I thought it was really funny that AEW just like won 2 weeks, 2 elite level pay-per-views. I thought was really funny. And I think All Out is special All In is obviously special. I think All Out is special because they planted so many seeds for stories for the future. And I'm not even talking about like next week, the immediate future, Wrestle Dream, Full Gear, like that immediate future. I'm talking about like next year.
Yeah.
Like stories that they have now in their back pocket, and that not even including talent that are out on injury. So AEW, is she back? I think she's back.
If this is back, if this is it, I want more of it. So
And the women's, we're not only are we back, the women's division is finally firing. Like, I think
absolutely.
This AEW, because the women's division is brought up and because the tag division is slowly coming back up, I think this has the potential, assuming that they do everything right, they make the right choices, all that kind of stuff. I think this AEW with this roster and this community could be the best version of AEW that we've seen, especially with the new TV rights deal coming up and all this sort of stuff. Talent falling out and retiring, new talent coming up, pulling the trigger on people like Queen Aminata and Daniel Garcia and Takeshita. I think she could be the best version of AEW.
I'm ready. Let's go. Ready. We got a couple more months of 2024. That's the year we're in. I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
I'm so ready. I'm so excited about, and normally this part of the year is the part where I'm most excited about AEW anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so excited about AEW because it feels like we've like, you know, when it's cold outside and you come inside and like you feel that's how I feel. I was cold outside. I was having fun outside, but I was a little uncomfy. I was a little like not interested, and I go inside and it's like, that's how I feel. I'm so excited. This show gave me so much hope. It was for the sickos.
For the sickos.
The chronic sickos. Not the momentary sickos. The chronic sickos. That's what it's for.
I'm ready for it.
Absolutely incredible. Do you want to tell the people where they can find you?
Oh, well, hey, you can find me here every Sunday crying about wrestling. We like to talk about all the things that we love, not necessarily all the things we hate, but we do post shows like this, getting our opinions about things. A couple hours later, we get to sleep on it. It's kind of nice because I get to write notes. But you can see me here every Sunday. You can go over to our local establishment every Thursday where we talk about Ring of Honor, where I get to either yay, I like this match, or boo, this was a waste of time. It's been a toss-up. Can't wait for that TV deal to be announced because I just think it's going to be only beneficial for everything. Which, by the way, Tony Khan during the presser mentioned that the deal with WB is Warner Brothers is 90% of the way there. I think that they must have something it's a definite, but they have to tweak a couple things.
Yeah,
I'm all for it because that's good for business and it's good for everybody. And you can find me on my little channels, usually on Saturday mornings for Collins on the Rocks, which is our new show over there where we kind of do sections. We do little, chatty chat. It's a hell of a good time. And if you want to watch an interview with me, there's one over at our local establishment podcast YouTube page. It's also in all the links in my bio because all my social media is _queer_auntie, except Twitch because they don't allow underscores, which is dumb. Oh. And we should have petitioned. That's but weird. Yeah. Every social media I have is _queer_auntie. You can find me there and find out when I'm going live if you want to hang out. But yeah, all my social medias right now have a link in my bio to that interview. So if you want to hear me learn what a knob is, I didn't know what a knob was. It's not a doorknob. It's not a doorknob. I'll learn that. But yeah. Where can we find you, Kiley?
You can follow me on Twitter at Kiley Wrestling. That is the only place that you can follow me. The rest of my social media is private. I'm very sorry, but that's just how it is. So you can follow me on Twitter at Kiley Wrestling. I'm also revamping my Tumblr account, getting back into that. Tumblr, yeah. Did you know there's a whole thriving wrestling community on Tumblr?
What?
Yes, they're there. Because I was talking to friends about like the Tumblr renaissance of 2024 and like because Twitter's dying and people are looking for a place. And yeah, there's a whole community of wrestling fans on Tumblr and they're active and they're crazy and I love them. So I want to be part of that.
Insane.
So the last time I was on Wrestling Tumblr was around Brawl Out. So I just want to show you my header image on Tumblr is this photo. So I will revamp my Tumblr. Don't worry. We'll figure it out. And my pinned Tumblr post is Logan Paul sucks toes.
Oh, perfect.
That's which exactly got 6 notes, by the way. Just throwing it out there. But yeah. Because my thing is, I know people are leaving Twitter, which is their right. And I know some countries are banning Twitter. So I don't want the community. I want our community here at Wrestling Made Me Cry to stay together. So I'm, without compromising my private social medias, we're trying to find a middle ground, mind you. So yeah.
That's smart.
We'll figure it out, guys.
If I was smart, I would do that, but here I am.
Well, I deleted TikTok like months ago because I was addicted to it and I was spending too much time on it. And I felt like it was encouraging me to like make choices that I otherwise wouldn't make. Will not elaborate, but you know, there's other social medias out there, but most of my social medias are private. So I'm very sorry about that. But you know what? That's just how the cookie crumbles in 2024. So follow me on Twitter at Kiley Wrestling. You can also see me here every Sunday at noon Eastern on Wrestling Made Me Cry. Normally we talk about like wholesome stuff and we have a good time together. But you know what? I love a good pay-per-view review. And what a good pay-per-view for me and you to review.
Absolutely.
For us. Tony Khan said, here, have it. And I took it and I ate it. That's what the show was. And this is Fightful Overbooked. There's a lot of shows on Fightful Overbooked about wrestling, about other things. Just a lot of fun stuff. So go to like the playlist tab and go check some stuff out. But also watch the 0 Hour, AEW 0 Hour. I remember we told you to watch it at the beginning of the show. So now go watch that. And then come back to Fightful Overbooked and watch everybody else's content. I think that's good. I think that's good. Amen. But yeah, there's a lot of content on Fightful Overbooked. There's interviews. There's non-wrestling shows. A lot of good talent. A lot of fun people here. I love Fightful Overbooked. So go check them out. I think I did. I plugged everything. I think we're good. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining us. A 2-hour show, and some of you stuck out this whole 2 hours, which thank you so much for doing that. Love you guys. All Out was crazy. All In was crazy, and I'm excited. I'm so glad that I get to come here and talk to everybody about it. And you guys come and you actually like listen to me talk about it. I love that. But all that being said, thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you here next week, same place, Fightful Overbooked, noon Eastern, Sunday. Don't miss it.
Don't miss it, or else.